There is a price for freedom. Many don't understand the price of freedom, which has actually been paid by the blood of those who have given their lives for us to be able to have freedom. Instead, they run to communism and socialism, which really is the greatest temptation of a man's flesh. A temptation that when a nation bites its poisonous fruit, it always eventually ends up in oppression and bloodshed. Democratic republics are important, yet without a healthy fear of God, no representative government works. As a matter of fact, take a look. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFN TV.
Did you know that freedom is a price for freedom? Mm-hmm. Being a Marine, I think you know, is a price for freedom, right?
Absolutely. Actually, while we're on deployment, we actually had a saying that said, for those who fight for it, freedom has a taste that the protected will never know.
Right.
Because you understand the cost, you understand the sacrifice and everything that goes into so that we can have the freedom.
Right, right.
It's huge.
And you think about it, 1% of America serves in the military, so 1% defends the other 99%. Correct. But you gotta have that 1%. There's gotta be somebody, as we're talking in an early part of this program, the prophetic vision that Rick Joyner got from the Lord about the church being in, some of the church being in confinement, and there's this hole that somebody's gotta go through to be able to go the way, to prepare the way ahead. For the rest of the church. And God has always, called people out from among them so that he could prepare that person or persons to be able to lead everybody to where he wants to go, right?
Right. And as you're saying that too, as you're talking about the wall, it reminds me of like mindsets.
Oh yeah.
Because you're thinking about that and you're seeing, what you're saying, okay, we're called and expected to go out and make disciples. So because I know, personally in my life too, you're talking about the journey that you went through when God called you. It's just like, I remember reading the word and you see things and it's just like, okay, but this doesn't line up exactly with what Jesus said. And so when you would look at what Jesus said, it confronts the reality of what's going on. It's just like, I've got to do what Jesus says.
Right.
And like you're saying, that exposes everything. And it's just like, at that point you have that decision of like, okay, do we stay where we are? Or it's just like, what does Jesus tell us to do?
Yeah, and Jesus came to set the captive free.
Absolutely.
And it was the people that were struggling with what they knew religiously about God to understand the freedom of God coming in the Son of God, that they stuck with the religion captivity when Jesus actually came to set them free. Mm-hmm. So he showed up in the temple. He taught freedom in the Word of God. He came to, literally he says, I came to set the captive free. Yeah. Inside the temple, and they began to want to kill him and to plot because they wanted to stay. Some people rather be a slave than to be set free. They don't say that. They complain about their captivity. They complain about their masters that they choose to submit themselves to, but they also don't want to do the work to be free.
We'll be right back.
Don't miss your chance to get this free book, I Will Fight 10 Strategies for Your Success, where I share a prophetic encounter God gave me about a coming wealth transfer. And this whole genesis of this book and these strategies is to position you for a coming wealth transfer. It's 10 strategies for success, dealing with your belief, your actions, commitments, giving you plans, giving you strategies. I mean, so many things I can't even talk about, but it's yours for free. Go to vfnkb.com and get your free copy now.
Welcome back to VFN TV with your host, Greg Lancaster.
And if you don't have freedom, you're going to need fences like we talked about in the earlier part. So it's not like institutions are bad. I mean, orphanages are good because there's not enough fathers or mothers who will parent those children. But if there's enough parents to be able to parent children, even if they're not your own biological child, you can adopt them, then you wouldn't need orphanages. So institutions are very important, but at some point, we need to be able to be set free. So you think about this. Even America requires us to be able to be free, to be able to have the Constitution that we have. You got to participate in the process. You can't just sit back. And you're seeing people today run to socialism, run to communism, a form of where government is God to take care of them because they didn't understand that we are one nation under God. The only way the nation of America could continue constitutionally if God allows it, and secondly, if we participate in the process and understand we got to get outside of the fences and things that kept us and said you can't vote, you can't express yourself, you can't speak your mind, you can't worship God freely, and begin to do those things. But you have to participate. And you don't need fences if you have a fear of the Lord. And at one time, America, even if you didn't even know God, you had a fear of the Lord. Like in the 50s and back, people who didn't even know God, they openly were not Christians, but they had a fear of the Lord. Today, people they profess to know him and don't even have a fear of him. He didn't change. Men have changed. As a matter of fact, I went to listen to this one Harvard student that he was over on a Bright scholarship, and he's from Asia, from a communist country, and he's looking at America and he's studying America. It's like, how does America work? Listen to what his observation is about America.
Some time ago, I had a conversation with a Marxist economist from China. He was coming to the end of a Fulbright fellowship here in Boston. And I asked him if he had learned anything that was surprising or unexpected. And without any hesitation, he said, yeah. I had no idea how critical religion is to the functioning of democracy. The reason why democracy works, he said, is not because the government was designed to oversee what everybody does, but rather democracy works because most people, most of the time, voluntarily choose to obey the law. And in your past, most Americans attended a church or a synagogue every week, and they were taught there by people who they respected. My friend went on to say that Americans followed these rules because they had come to believe that they weren't just accountable to society, they were accountable to God. My Chinese friend heightened a vague but nagging concern I've harbored inside that as religion loses its influence over the lives of Americans, what will happen to our democracy? Where are the institutions that are going to teach the next generation of Americans that they too need to voluntarily choose to obey the laws? Because if you take away religion, you can't hire enough police.
If you take away religion, you cannot hire enough police. Listen, without God, without a knowledge of God, without a fear of the Lord, this doesn't work. And the Lord has called us to be free, but we have to choose to be free. When we get back from this break, you're going to see this man that I talked about. He's going to be set free from prison, but you're going to watch him deal with all the things that maybe you would have to deal with if God said, I want you to step out. And you're going to be what quite often the American church calls it a missionary. You're actually going to talk to somebody about Jesus. And you're really going to leave that thing, and you're going to have to trust God. Join us after the break. We're talking about freedom. We're talking about being free. And it is a big deal. The day that your parents tell you, well, we're seeing a new address for you, and it's not this one. I kind of say you're going to have a new home, and it don't need to be anywhere in this block area. We need to travel to see you a little bit, or you're joining the military, and like you're in, and these things are taking place. Well, when God calls you, He calls you to train you up and disciple you, but to send you out into the world. And so many people rather be institutionalized. They rather stay within that confinement of when people are dying outside the walls of this religious cell, and people are just suffering for the cause of Christ. They say, I'd rather be locked up, because freedom, there's a price for it. Well, look at this particular clip from, and the movie it was seen on VidAngel, which filters out things, so I can't tell you what the actual footage is, but this guy's name's Brooke. And Brooke was an inmate. Brooks. He was an inmate for years in prison because he committed a crime. And he was so used to operating in the jail and doing what was told. They tell you when to eat, what to do, when to sleep, when to get up. And all of a sudden his sentence was done. And it was time for him to be a disciple. No, it was time for him to be free and to go in the world. It was time for him to trust God. He who the Son sets free is free indeed, right? Well, and he was being freed from this prison. Watch what he does, because everything he feels. Imagine if that was you, and today the Lord said, get thee up and go, and I'm going to show you. And you have to begin to walk in the freedom that God has given you. He said, my sheep know my voice, and they follow none other. I'll protect them. I'm sending you out like sheep amongst wolves, but he's sending us out. It's the go-y church, not the come-y church. So watch this and think, is that how I would be if in fact God said, today you're going for a church plant in Pakistan? Take a look.
I can't take care of you no more, Jake. I can't take care of you no more, Jake. Go on now. You go on now.
You're free. You're free.
You're free.
You're
Dear fellas, I can't believe how fast things move on the outside. I saw an automobile once when I was a kid, but now they're everywhere. The world went and got itself in a big hurry. Parole board got me into this halfway house called the Brewer, and a job bagging groceries at the Foodway. It's hard work, and I try to keep up, but my hands hurt most of the time.
Make sure your man double bags. Last time he didn't double bag, and the bottom near came out.
Make sure you double bag, like the lady says, understand?
Yes, sir, surely will. I don't think the store manager likes me very much. Sometimes after work, I go to the park and feed the birds. I keep thinking Jake might just show up and say hello, but he never does. I hope wherever he is, he's doing okay and making new friends. I have trouble sleeping at night. I have bad dreams like I'm falling. I wake up scared. Sometimes it takes me a while to remember where I am. Maybe I should get me a gun and rob the Foodway so they'd send me home. I could shoot the manager while I was at it, sort of like a bonus. I guess I'm too old for that sort of nonsense anymore. I don't like it here. I'm tired of being afraid all the time. I've decided not to stay. I doubt they'll kick up any fuss. Not for an old crook like me.
How many people today are literally killing themselves? Constantly, he said, I'd just rather shoot somebody and go back to jail again. I'd rather sin than to go on with God, than to actually go into the mission field. You think this is dramatic? The truth is, so many people, 95% of the church will not win one person to the Lord in their entire ministry. Somehow their entire life, they spend their entire life doing something other than what we're called to do. This is dramatic, but imagine how dramatic it was for the children that were crucified over in the Middle East, for the women that are married right now to ISIS fighters because they had a faith in Jesus Christ and they refused to deny it. And you think about this. We've got to break outside the institutionalized religion and hear what our pastors and ministers are telling us and go be a doer of the word. We've got to do. God's going to hold us personally accountable for either doing or not doing. And you know what? Every critical word that you've ever made or judgment you made on others, it'll all come back on you unless you repent for it. Because as soon as you step out and you're on that bus like Brooks was, and you're at that job bagging groceries again, trying to reach people around you in some other country or in your own community to talk about Jesus, all those judgments, because he says, whatever, how you judge others, that's how judgments will come back to you. So you got to clear up and realize there's no atheists in foxholes. When you're out there on the front lines, you're just thankful that God is with you. And God says, listen, I'm going to send you out as my witnesses. I'm going to send you out. And we're called to go out. We're not the come-y church, we're the go-y church. And one thing to be able to go out is to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. It's like training in boot camp. You need to be able to be trained in God to be able to go out. And he says, those who follow my teachings are really my disciple. Then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Free from what? Captivity.
Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFN TV.
You know, a lot of people want to abide with the Lord, but they just don't have a plan to do it. You can request that plan today at iabide.org.
I'm your host, Greg Lancaster, and we're so glad that you've joined us. Don't forget you can join us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download our app and sign up for our newsletter, The Torch, at vfnkb.com. I've enjoyed our time together. God bless.